Are you dreading your next home repair? Don't. Crew Pros is your one-call solution for everything your home needs. Whether it's heating and air, plumbing, complete roof replacement, whole home generators, and electrical repairs. Our professionals get the job done right. Crew Pros is your single source for high-quality home services at affordable prices. For everything your home needs, Crew Pros. Remodel, repair, replace.
Memphis. Nothing but Memphis. Everywhere we go, it's Memphis. Memphis, Tennessee, the beautiful land in the world.
And I'm thankful for this guy who tweeted and said I don't have that fire in my eyes no more. That game right there was for him. That's what I do. I prove people wrong each and every night, and that's for him right there.
Hi, this is Tom Izzo at Michigan State, and you're listening to Grizz 901.
What up, Grizz Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Grizz 901. Coming off of a Game 6 loss to the Lakers. Unfortunately, it's actually still going on at the very moment. We have a guy that's in a hoodie. We can't barely see much of him, but his nose and his eyes. But this show is presented by Zach Jaworski State Farm, where they treat you like family. We're going to give you a little bit of a wrap-up in the entire series, also a wrap-up in the entire season. Was not really looking forward to this episode in general, but we're going to wrap up the all of that, the series and the season, as well as kind of look through exactly what happened and what went wrong. But then we always want to send you out on a good note. We're going to give you some silver linings and things to look forward to. Okay, we're going to try. It's going to be tough, but we're going to have a good time, as we always do. Listen, early on in this podcast, it might get a little heated. I have some stuff I want to say. I know Nate has some stuff he wants to say to kind of get off our chest, because it is very frustrating of what just happened. But I am your host, as always. I'm Daniel Greer, and you know the other guy who's cackling over there like a little schoolgirl. He's coming. All right, Nate, give it to us, man. Give it to us.
Just like the Lakers just gave it to the Grizz.
Yes.
Sorry, are giving it to the Grizz.
Too early. Too early.
No need for a glass tonight. Am I right? Jokes, people. Jokes.
You're not joking.
That is the first sip of alcohol I've had tonight. It's okay. We're gonna be all right. No need for copium here.
All right. Well, listen, I have to say that the game is wrapping up. It's going to end up with a 125-85 game.
Ow. The only way to have a season end worse is what happened to Milwaukee the other night. What happened to Milwaukee is the worst way for a fan to have your season ended. But this is a very close second.
Yeah.
it's bad.
Let's just, first things first. Initial thoughts, just kind of very, very little, not too long-winded. Just summarize a little bit of what you saw tonight, just in general. Give it to us, and you know what? And be blunt.
I mean, that was easily front runner, takeaway, runaway winner of the year, winner of the softest game of the year. I mean, it was like once they gave up the lead, it was like they never regained composure. Like they were up by 6 or 7, looked like they were coming out to compete, gave up the lead, and never turned back into the team that showed up in the last game and in the first 3 minutes tonight. I mean, and let's preface all of this, because I got a feeling it's going to get pretty bad.
It's going to be nasty.
We're doing a post-game show, right? We're going to talk about the game. The team in general. So that's what I'm saying. The team in general, we love this team.
Absolutely.
Love all the guys on it.
They're good dudes, and that's what sucks. That's what sucks about all this, is that they're good dudes.
Love the players.
God, this sucks.
It's going to be okay. But tonight is not okay. So let's just preface it with, we do love this team.
But we have to apologize, because it's going to get nasty.
I've never been so embarrassed by an effort. I mean, it was so embarrassing that it got not embarrassing.
It got laughable. We're literally laughing. Like before we come on, we're laughing about different things.
I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that happens in a game that could close out your season when it's just one team wanted it more.
Yeah.
I mean, one team was better coached tonight. One team shot the ball better tonight.
One team cared.
Rebounded tonight. One team
Right.
defended tonight. One team
Right.
cared.
That's
One
it.
team cared. I mean, Dennis Schroeder was in their shorts all series long. And I'm watching Ja and Tyus both try and poke steals away from behind the entire game. There's no on-ball defense. There was no adjustment to those screens the entire series. I just don't. And listen, if they had the horses, I think they still probably would have won this series in 5 if they had all their guys.
Grizzlies?
Yeah, I think the Grizzlies had enough on the bench. Them missing players is understandable. None of it means they should lose like that.
Yeah.
You just didn't give a shit.
Yeah.
And so that's why for our first segment, we're going to be presenting our first ever Charmin Ultra Soft Player of the Game Award. This was a tough award to decide on. I thought I'd give it to one guy. I was like, you know what? Ja turned it over quite a bit. Maybe he deserves it. Tyus might be in Minnesota right now. So maybe he deserves it. And I was like, you know what? There's a lot of guys that could deserve it. But ultimately, I came out to
There has to be a winner.
Jaren Jackson Jr. winning our first ever Charmin Ultra Soft Player of the Game Award. You might be wondering, Nate, Ja gave up as well. Desmond Bain started launching it from the logo. What made you decide on Jaren? Good question, Daniel. I'm not sure Jaren ever played in that game. Jaren is the smallest 7-foot human on the planet when there is another big playing in there.
That is the truth.
And listen, you didn't have your guys. And Tyus sucked. Your bench was completely untenable the entire series outside of Luke. You still had enough to not only compete, but beat that team. But Jaren just no-showed after the first game. And like the first half last game was terrible too.
Yeah.
I think they would have lost the series last game if he didn't have the second half he had. But how you come out and you're ball watching, you're not going after rebounds aggressively. You're not challenging anyone in the paint. It's like he just decided he couldn't score against Anthony Davis, which Anthony Davis had an awesome defensive series. But he just wasn't physical. He wasn't aggressive for rebounds. He wasn't anywhere.
Yeah.
And to be frank, after the game 1, it didn't feel like he was anywhere the entire series except for little spurts in the second half of game 5.
Yeah.
And this game was just, I mean, he has to go, if anyone's going to take that personally, because of the other people who were in this series that were terrible and detrimental, I would imagine at least one of them's gone, if not both of them, in the offseason. We're going to talk about all that. Nope, not this show. We're going to talk about that for other games. Like, there's a whole offseason of content. Let's not ruin it here tonight.
Yeah, that is true. So we talked a little bit to Mark earlier, who's the head of Bluff City Media, and so we just kind of had a chat because we did have a watch party. So I dipped out a little bit early and came home because one, the game sucked, but it didn't suck then. I left before the game sucked, but I came home so me and you could do this just in case this was our last show. I wanted to make sure that you were on here, but two, they were going to close down early. I didn't want to have this be a short show. A big win coming in game 6, a big loss coming in game 6. I want to give us enough time, but also I want to allow them to be able to close on time down at High Cotton Brewery, who is, the people there. Listen, I can't say enough good things about the people, the workers. They are awesome. They're good people. So I just want to give a shout out to them. The
Also,
bartenders have been
beer.
awesome. The beer is great.
The Scottish ale, A++ beer. It's not something you would think to get. You got to get it. Trust me.
Yeah.
A++.
Well, Mexican lager is my deal. It's very light, very easy, but it's delicious. But yeah, so shout out to the people at High Cotton. They did us right, but both times we were there, unfortunately, the Grizzlies did us wrong. Both times we had that, but there are so many. There's you know what? There's so many ways we could attack this game, right? There just is. Are we going to completely vent? Are we going to go off about everything? Are we going to be honest? And the only thing that I can be is honest. So let's go ahead and start it from me as honest as I possibly can be. It's hard to knock the guys because they have a myriad of excuses. Like there's so many excuses you can give this team, okay? And just wait. I'm going to give you the excuses, but I promise you I will give my honest opinion. But you're talking about a guy in Steven Adams who is the backbone of your team in a sense. He's been out for a while. We didn't expect that. And then you're going to go out with other guys, and then BC, who's been very good. He allows you to be very versatile, very, very much in the playoffs, right? He allows you to be that. But then you lose a guy who spaces your floor in Luke. That was tough. That's another key piece. If you lose a guy like Santi, if you lose a guy like Tyus, if you lose a guy like Roddy, those guys, they're not as key in a playoff series. In a regular season, those guys are crucial. But in a playoff series, when you need the matchup, when you need to get the edge in the matchup, those other three guys are crucial. There's so many excuses. Let's go ahead and go to the health. John Morant has not been right ever since that night in Denver. He gets hurt with his hand. He has not been right. Okay. The excuses continue to pile up. Desmond Blaine has played his ass off. He has played so hard the last two games. He's sweating through his jersey. I said on the pregame show that Desmond Bane's legs was what I was worried about the most. I didn't think he would have it. I think he'd be a little gassed. He's done the most in the last two games. More than Ja Morant, even though Ja has played well. He hasn't had to work as hard as Ja has. I'm sorry. Ja hasn't had to work as hard as Bane has. Bane has worked his mind. It went crazy. Okay. I was worried about Bane's legs, and I felt like, you know what? Maybe they were gone. But in the end, that's just the truth. Like they have so many excuses. But what I will say is, I don't care if you're getting punched in the mouth. I don't care if you're getting punched in the nose. I don't care what's happening in life. You always fight. No matter what moment in life, no matter if it's a sport, no matter if it's life, no matter if it's for your family, whatever it is, you always fight. That's how I grew up. That's how a lot of us grew up. That's how a lot of people in Memphis grew up. We fight. That's what makes Memphis, honestly, this. Like you go around Memphis, it's a big city, but it's not that big. It doesn't feel big, at least, because everybody knows everybody. We all fight for each other. That's why it's Memphis versus everybody. That's why we fight. That's why this team fights normally. Tonight they laid down. I don't know why. I don't want to go ahead and speculate because that's wrong. I don't want to do that. I'm not going to be the clickbait guy.
Well, it's
frustrating.
Well, it's tough because you know what you said it a minute ago, and I want to get back to the Jaren stuff, and we'll get to it in a minute. They missed when you're talking about Steven Adams, Brandon Clark, Luke Kennard. Those are three guys who Luke ended up at the end of the season and in this series especially being a very important piece for the Grizzlies. Adams and Clark were known important pieces for Grizzlies. I think the only one they could have gotten away with in the long run missing is BC. But at the end of the day, he's a vital piece of the way you normally operate. I just thought they could adjust more without BC, and I think that they did. But they do three very different things for the Grizzlies that are all super important. Yep. And so it's at the end of the day, when we were going into the playoffs, I said if they have Steven Adams, I think they could make a conference finals run. Without Steven Adams, I think second round exit. Unless they are absolutely clicking. So he is that important of a player. Then Luke Kennard, obviously, that was the lineup that worked. He was the player that you could put in the lineup, and he was a net positive the entire series, right? And I think that mentally, you saw it happen with the Raptors and Warriors, however many years ago that was, 3 years ago, I think, maybe 4 years ago. Steph, the Warriors are going to win that series. and then KD goes out.
Yeah.
And then Klay Thompson goes out. And you saw Steph's face once Klay Thompson was out. It's just like, what are we going to, like, what do you do? And the Grizzlies had a little bit of that going. My thing is the same thing you're saying. They just folded like a lawn chair tonight. That's what drives me crazy. I think that's what's going to drive Grizzlies fans crazy. I hope is what drives the players, the coaching staff, and the front office crazy.
100%.
Well, because what it matters is, hey, you need maturity. Mm-hmm. And I think they went all in on youth. I think they were still in a development year. And I think this is going to be the last time they can get away with it, and they know it. I've been saying they need to get away from the development stuff since middle of last season. Yeah. Because I'm like, you're too good. Who knows when this window's going to close? Even though it's, in theory, it's just opening, whatever. You have to have veterans on this team. You have to have veterans on this team. And you got to have guys that complement the guys that matter most, which is not Tyus Jones. And it's not Dylan Brooks.
Yeah, we're gonna hit on that. Not tonight though, because I don't think that.
Nope.
I don't think that's the time, right? And we have so much of the off season left. Kind of planning out a little bit of the off season already, and kind of speaking with the team over at Bluff City Media. Very excited about that. We'll say big things coming for this show. Listen, Mark, who, as we've always talked about at BCM, he went through the numbers as well as I did. And I sent you the numbers as well, Nate. We have all the numbers from downloads, listens, impressions, whatever the numbers are that sponsors like. As you all know, that's really what pays the bills, right? Is the sponsors. And that's what allows this show to kind of keep doing its things that it's doing. I want to say thank you for hanging out with us. It has been a blast, but this isn't the end of it. And I'm excited about the off season and what's going to happen, because we're going to be able to go to once a week. It's going to be fun. We're going to do all that, but we don't want to hit on the off season stuff. So if you're here looking for off season stuff, we're not going to do that yet. I don't think that's right. I want to hit on tonight. I want to hit on the season and kind of wrap that up a little bit. And then next week, we're going to give you a full encapsulation of us taking a deep breath, thinking about the season in general, and actually answering questions that you might have, talking through some things, and kind of looking back on the season as a whole. But tonight, we're going to look at tonight, and this might be more of the vent session, but we got to be honest, man. I've never been not honest. But looking at the game tonight, you know what sometimes I look at is stats like this, is offensive rebounds. And so I want to, give a little bit to Trail Strange. The most offensive rebounds tonight from this team is 3. But that is an effort. Effort is offensive rebounds. And that's just the truth. Like when you look at some stats, in the box score, points, rebounds, rebounds are all in all an effort. You can look at assists, not so much. You can look at so many different things, but offensive rebounds is really all about effort and energy and care.
And that's where I'm like, what happened to the Jaren Jackson Jr. that was there for the last quarter of the year, the regular season? He was a monster. He was angry. Yeah. He was physical. He was
physical,
asserting himself and dominating. And I watched 2 rebounds in that first quarter. You talk about the first few minutes of the game until it turned on the Grizzlies. There's twice. He just doesn't go get the rebound.
Right.
It's not like he can't go get it. He just doesn't go grab it. He's just ball watching. Leads to 6 quick points for the Lakers. When Tyus, who threw up one of the ugliest layups I've ever seen tonight, but I'm thinking he's like, AD has to try and challenge this, or Jaren will be there to go get it. Jaren's just ball watching.
Yeah. He had no effort tonight. None.
I do not understand it. I don't understand it, because he is massive height-wise. He's also strong. It's not like he's one of these string bean Chet Holmgren big guys. He has got to figure out how to be 7 feet. And he did. He did. Even the first game of the series, he did. But he has got to figure out how to be 7 feet. He can't get dominated like that by Anthony Davis. He's got to figure it out. So That's what drove me crazy tonight. And I think he will. I've been a Jaren believer. I'm still a big Jaren believer. I know. Trust me. I've got friends who I was making fun of in the middle of the season who are making fun of me tonight because of the effort he put forward. But I think he'll figure it out. But I can't believe that happened in a closeout game of a playoff series. I couldn't believe the effort.
You can't have Santi Aldama as your leading scorer. You can't.
He's also a better option than Jaren tonight.
You can't have Santi Aldama as your leading scorer. He's the guy that everybody said should not be on the court. You can't have that. You can't have a guy who isn't a good player right now. He's just a role player. He can't be the leading scorer. That just can't happen. There's no way around it. You can't have that. Tonight, the Grizzlies just played bad. But a lot of these guys just kind of let the other team, let the Lakers decide what they were going to do because of effort. And I know we've said this so many times. Effort will always help you win games. But if you don't have effort, it doesn't take much for a professional NBA player to find their stroke, to play better, to play free, to play wide open, to just kind of play the way that everybody wants to play when they're going to the gym and they're hanging out with their buddies and they're just gonna go get some shots up. That's really how they played tonight. And that's why they won by 40 points.
I come back to the on-ball defense from Ja and Tyus.
There was zero.
It was non-existent.
Zero.
There's zero pride in it. And I don't know how that happens. That's why I'm saying it was hard to give out our prestigious Charmin Ultra Soft Player of the Game award. That was the difference in game 5. They were connected. They were swarming them on defense. And tonight they just didn't.
It's effort.
And I don't understand that. That's what I don't understand. I don't understand how that effort doesn't exist. It just blows my mind.
Do you think that Luke going out is a killer of momentum or attitude? Really? Yes. Even to some of the guys who talk, this team talks so much they talk all the time.
Only explanation to me.
I just don't get it, man. I just don't get it.
I don't get it either. I don't get it, but I can't think of any other reason why that would be the case.
Yeah.
Because it's not been the MO for these guys. The MO has not been to fold like that.
No, it's not. And that's why I hate going in this hard and calling out some of them for just not caring or not trying. It's for the simple fact that we've seen this all year long, right?
Well, they've come back. Well, and it makes it hard to say, okay, is it the players? Is it coaching? Did Taylor Jenkins not give them the tools to adjust to that drag screen? Or did they just not care and do the same thing over and over again? And I'm going to come back to this a lot in the offseason. You need vets. You need vets on there that say this isn't happening.
If you look at tonight's game plan, the way it all played out, can you single anything out and you say, hey, there wasn't a good enough game plan at all? And that's just simple as that.
I mean, they had nothing for that drag screen.
Okay. But
nothing. But if you're asking me is there one reason the Grizzlies lost a game? Yeah, they sucked at everything.
I mean, in general, a lot of times people want to pick apart, let's just say the drag screen, right?
If you're asking me if I'm putting us on Taylor Jenkins, the answer is hell no.
Yeah, and I don't think it is. Listen, there's a lot of things you can do as a coach, and I do not think Taylor Jenkins is the best coach in the world. Okay, I think his guys like him, which is listen, that's rule number 1. If you can get your team to like you, then you have their ear so you can actually help them. But if they don't listen to you, they don't like you, no matter how good or bad of a coach you are, there is no helping or doing anything for them, right? They're going to just listen to themselves and do their own thing. So that's the number 1 thing I always think of is whether or not they actually listen to the coach. I don't think there's anything you do tonight. I think the Grizzlies just didn't play with effort for whatever reason, and I don't think that's coach as much. I think effort is on you personally as a player. And I think once they saw some people didn't care, I think they folded.
100% they folded. Like, Taylor Jenkins did not coach well this series. You're not going to catch me saying otherwise. At the same time, you can't coach effort, and there wasn't effort. Too many times. There was no composure. There was no poise. When the guys start going on a run, like, for instance, watch Kings Warriors tonight. Did you watch any of that?
No, I didn't, unfortunately.
I
was doing a pregame show, Nate.
I wasn't, because I don't live there. So there's that. I was watching, and the Warriors would start to go on a run, and the Kings would just put together an offensive possession, get a bucket, and quiet the crowd. A lot of times, and then you had guys that just were shot makers. Malik Monk just made shots.
I got a question. Did they shoot outside of 7 feet or no?
Yes.
Oh, so you're allowed to shoot outside 7 foot in the playoffs?
I mean, apparently.
Oh, not on this team though. Not in Memphis, not this team, but other teams you're allowed to. It's weird.
Yeah, it's crazy. No, and they ran offensive sets. They ran real offensive sets. But here's the thing: a coach shouldn't have to call a timeout to get you to run an offensive set either.
No, that should be from you're paying your point guard tons of money. You should be able to call a number, say something, and you run a set. Real quick. I'm not sure if Sean, God, I can't say his last name. Don't
try. You're going to
Elazar. That's close. I don't know. Sean, I apologize. I don't know if you are hating or if you're being honest, but you know what? It's true. When the lights are bright, true stars shine, but not for the case for Memphis. They lack experience and started yapping when they have not proven anything in the league. Listen, they yap all the time. That's just the kind of people they are, the kind of player they are. That doesn't say anything about them in general. I think people talk a lot. I think it's been blown out of proportion how much they talk. But in general, that's the truth. They do need to grow up next season, as Tobias Z says. 100%. They do need to grow up.
They need to grow up, and they need to shut up.
They do need to shut up. I think they felt themselves this year, and I think they got smacked in the face.
Well, I don't even care. Everybody in the league talks trash.
They do.
Everybody does. But the Grizzlies were doing it off the court so much. We've talked about it before. This season was not fun.
No.
It was not a fun season for Grizz fans because there was so much drama and distractions off the court. That's a problem.
We were doing so much work as a fan to try to help.
Well, and you can't have that kind of distraction during your season. That's what I'm saying. Shut up. If you want to talk on the court, do whatever, fine. But all this off the court crap, that doesn't need to be a thing next season. They need to actually be humbled and grow up. And I don't know if that doesn't humble you.
Sheesh.
We're in for troubles as a Grizzlies fan base, because that should humble you and you should learn a lot of lessons from that. If you come out of that with hey, we're going to do us.
Oh my God.
Whatever, it's one game, bro. No, it's not. And no, you shouldn't. Doing us needs to change.
There's a lot of stuff for this offseason. A lot. Like, I know we're not getting into it, but just thinking about the offseason in general, like, you have so many players. You have your core locked up for the future outside of Desmond Bane, who will be locked up, right? I don't worry about that. You have your core locked up. Like, and still you have so many questions about the offseason, whether it's about contracts, players you're locking up, whether it's about people trading. There's so much. Man, it's so crazy. All right, look, real quick, David Vickers, we're going to hit on some of the comments. Ja did as much, if not more, damage than Brooks. I agree. Listen, I think that night in Denver really hit home for Ja, but before then, Ja was talking a lot. But he was playing so well. It's hard to tell a guy who's playing on that level and being one of the best players in the league to shut up. But I think that kind of happened to himself. We
got to keep things in perspective too. And so, yeah, I'm not disagreeing whatsoever. And I'm not making an excuse. But I did have one of my buddies text me tonight. One of the guys that can ha-ha in my face about Jaren after that game. Telling me they look like a bunch of children out there. And I said I think my description was they looked like middle schoolers that were trying to get shots off against Michael Jordan at his basketball camp in the 90s. Like,
So me
just
and you.
whatever could make it to the rim, they were throwing up. But I responded to him and I was like, in all fairness, they are children. Like, the oldest guy on their team is 28 and has been out for 3 or 4 months with a knee injury and is not on the court. But that's a problem the front office should have seen coming and needs to address. And this was the first miss season for the front office, I think. And that's okay. This is not a huge condemnation, but I think we all thought when they were going into the season with all those rookies, we're like, they won't go into the season with all those rookies. And then they did.
Sure.
They got punished for not having a veteran presence on that team. And I think they, obviously they're not young in age, but young in experience front office. They're going to learn from that. That's okay. Taylor Jenkins, young in his coaching career. Hopefully he learns from this. That's okay. If you get into next postseason and some of the same stuff keeps happening, then we can get into some Budenholzer talks, which also obviously Budenholzer had a lot more on his mind. Come to find out, I forgot about that. So prayers up to his family. Maybe that criticism is not warranted. So maybe we should hold off on that.
Real quick.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mean to stop you. I don't know what you're talking about.
Budenholzer?
Yeah,
you didn't see that?
I did not. I've been busy. My wife's out of town, guys. Give me a break.
Okay, it came out. It came out today. His brother died in a car accident during this past series. Yeah.
Really? During the series?
During the series. Yeah.
Sheesh.
So that's why I'm saying maybe I should apologize and take a step back. That criticism may not be warranted when something like that's going on and you're trying to do your job through it. There's not a lot of jobs in the world that you choose to do that when a family member just passed away, especially unexpectedly like that. So I'm gonna apologize and take a step back from that. But all that to say, if you get to the next postseason, Taylor Jenkins is still making the same slow rotations mistakes, maybe then it's time to have a conversation. But there's a lot of growing up to do, and it's not just the players. But they are just kids. So I do think it is important to keep in mind they are just kids, and while we should challenge them to grow, and we have venting sessions that include rolls of toilet paper with a guy's name on them. At the end of the day, it's venting, it's honest criticism. At the same time, we're going to turn right around and say, we love these guys and we want them to grow. And there's grace. It's not, hey, we're completely out. Screw you guys. Like, we're still behind you, supporting you. Just, you got to grow up. Right? And I could get on a whole thing about love. And love's not just saying nice things. It's challenging each other.
Got to do this.
Dang. You were an undercover rock star this whole time. Who knew?
Yeah, real quick. So, as Angie says in the comments, they do need to grow up. I wasn't sure that Steven wasn't at the game. So, Steve wasn't at the game. I wasn't sure of that. So, Sean, who wrote us earlier about the team, he's a Lakers fan. So, thank you for kind of hanging out with us. But talk good about the Grizzlies in general. Man, listen, I don't think that Lakers team is good. I'll just me being honest. I think that the Grizzlies sucked this series 100%. But that doesn't mean that the Lakers can't go and win a next series 100%. Golden State and the Sacramento aren't great either. No, I don't think either of those teams are great. I just think you just got to be good for a series. You got to be good for 4 to 5 games.
To hit on the Lakers, I do want to give credit where credit is due. That Lakers team, the way they played tonight, I don't think it mattered if the Grizz showed up or not. I think the Lakers are going to win that game. I think if the Grizzlies showed up and played the way they played in Game 5, the Lakers are going to win that game. The Lakers were awesome tonight.
Tonight they were. They're role players.
The Grizzlies helped. The Grizzlies helped them be awesome. But I'm with you. I don't think that Lakers team is what they were tonight. I just don't think you're going to get D'Lo dropping 30. If D'Lo keeps dropping 30 balls, then they could win a lot of games. But I don't think that was a version. That version of the Lakers we saw tonight is a version you're going to get going forward. I'm not sold on them yet. They're much better than they were at the beginning of the year. They have a solid roster. 100%. But just to be honest, if the Grizzlies weren't absolute cheeks, I think that the Lakers would have been in trouble in the first round. While the Lakers did play well. And, hey, they're the ones moving on. The Grizzlies aren't.
I will say, and not taking anything away from the Lakers were the better team in the series, 100%. I will never not say that.
But you're saying it's more of an indictment on the Grizz.
It is. I think the Grizzlies sucked so bad this series that it wasn't hard to be better than them. Okay, and that listen, AD didn't play great this series. He had a couple good games. LeBron had a couple good games. Their role players. They always had a good role player in every single game, almost. If not every game they won, I know they had one, if not two, role players that played well. That's just how it is.
Well, and the Grizz need those vets. They need the role-playing vets. They need the guys that are like the Dante DiVincenzo's that will do all the dirty work, know where they're supposed to be, and knock down shots. That's what they had. Honestly, it's what they had with Luke Kennard. What are you laughing at?
I'm sorry, Mr. Christopher Silva. Thank you for coming in.
Oof.
The Lakers put out the best defensive team left in the playoffs. All right, listen, I know that you're probably a Lakers fan. You know what? And I respect it. I respect it because you are such a homer that you see that. And that's fine. LeBron sucks at defense.
Here's to you, Chris.
Yes. And AD has played awesome, but my God, Jaren has absolutely sucked and decided that AD was his daddy, and he just took it the whole entire series.
I would like to point Christopher to the Luke Kennard minutes of this series, because what happens when you have a competent shooter on the team on the floor, that defense goes right out the window. And whenever you play Warriors or Kings, I got bad news, brother.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of competent shooters out there.
Yeah, I agree. All right,
best defensive player, yes.
Yeah.
Confirmed by a vote of his peers. He's still got his name on a roll of toilet paper tonight, but
all right, let's move it on a little bit. I don't want to completely trash on the Lakers fans for coming hang out. Listen, by all means, welcome.
I respect it.
Welcome.
I'm all about
I respect the love. Dude, talk your ass 100%.
Yes.
You're allowed to. If the Grizzlies won, we're doing the same thing. I no doubt, not hating on you. I'm just saying, I just don't think they're a very good defensive team. I just think, like we said, the Grizzlies absolutely sucked this series.
real bad.
I don't think there's nothing else that we can go to. We're way over halfway of this. Listen, there's a lot of people tuning in right now, so I want to say thank you. If you want to come chat with us, come over to YouTube because we can actually see your chat. If you're on Twitter, which there are a lot of people, thank you. This has probably been our best, show we've had, and probably I'd say maybe all playoffs, the numbers wise. So if you're talking and chatting over in Twitter, we can't see it, so come over and hang out. But we're gonna go. We're going to go as long as you want to go, but also as long as the numbers keep hanging up. We want to kind of keep chatting on it. But I don't know what else we can talk within this game with the Grizzlies. I don't know, besides saying that they sucked and they didn't care. I don't know what else you can say. So do you want to put a bow on the game and talk a little bit more about the season in general, looking back on that?
Yeah, let's do it. I don't think there's much more to say about this game. It was a debacle. It was bad. I think we both said enough to feel a little bit better, though. So let's move on to this.
Listen, I didn't go in as much as I wanted to because I felt bad at some points. But I wanted to go all in. But I got to I got to be honest. They have so many excuses that they could actually give a realistic, if you're a Grizzlies fan, I get it. You could say there's so many excuses. But then I look at the game tonight and I look at the film and I see that people didn't care. I see that Jaren looked like he just didn't want to be there. So yeah, you shouldn't be you shouldn't be giving LeBron a little slap on the butt or a little shrug of the shoulder because he just took one into your face.
And I was going to say, we've got some time. It's the last post game of the season. We obviously are going to be around in the summer. We're going to be giving you content. It's going to be off season content. It's not going to be post games because those are over. But we're going to be here, just not doing post games. But since it is the last post game of the season, I know you're looking at the numbers, seeing who's hanging out with us. I've got all night. Tomorrow's a Saturday. I'm sleeping in, getting some pancakes in the morning with my baby. I could sit here and talk about a lot of stuff. So do you want to talk about the season as a whole what happened? Or do you want to talk about, hey, here's what we learned from the series. Here needs to be some stuff we need to look at going forward. Or do you want to do
You
both?
know what? Listen, let's do both. Let's do the second one you said first, because I think that's actually more fun.
All right.
Looking at this series, what you saw in the team and what they have to add, because the Grizzlies, man, the holes, dude, Swiss cheese.
Yeah, I think. Well, I was gonna say just nothing but on-ball defense for Ja after this game. What I'm actually gonna say is Ja needs to work on his shooting like he does.
Dude,
Everybody
there's no short game anymore. Like, it's like a golfer that, hey, listen, I drive and putt. That's all I do.
Well,
That's what he is.
Okay. He needs to work on his jump shot regardless. Season-long sample size. Series-long sample size. He had half a hand the whole series, dude. When we talk about Josh shooting in the series, I'm not giving him a complete off the hook for it. Dude, when that hand, did you see the pregame? He shaking his hand out in the pre. Well, then you're wrong.
Prior to this,
you're wrong.
He hasn't had a mid-range game in the last 6 months.
What are you talking about, dude?
He hasn't done anything.
It wasn't what it was last year. It wasn't as consistent as it was last year, but he was still going to it and hitting those shots, dude. You're just wrong. If you're saying he didn't do it at all this season, you're just wrong.
In the very early part of the season, he had somewhat of a free throw line short game.
Okay, are you talking about when he came back? Are you talking about since he came back?
From the very start of the season, October 19th.
Are you talking about since he came back, he hasn't had it, since he came back from the suspension?
I don't think he's had it midway through the year. Like, as in, like, I'm not even talking about the suspension.
I feel like Ja's short game is going to be fine. That's going to be fine. And I'm looking at this series, I'm looking at Ja's hand and saying, that shot isn't there. Every time he took a shot, it visibly hurt. I saw it hurt. And I think people are putting way too much on what they saw this series from Ja and like thinking because he played, he was fine. Dude.
No, I'm not saying that.
So I want to be clear on like the jump shot. He needs to work on a jump shot anyways. Just to have something a little more consistent. That's going to be a lot of what he's going through for his whole career. Are you pointing? Are you telling me? I do agree with Devin. I've been looking at his comments throughout. He actually gave me the idea earlier to talk about it. But if you're saying Devin's saying this, Nate, you're wrong. I need you to know that is exactly what I'm saying. just making sure we're clear. I'm saying he needs a shot. But other than that, dude, you have to take more pride in on-ball defense. And listen, he has shown he can do it. So I'm not sure it's like you need to work on this talent thing. I think he just needs to take more pride in it. And listen, Ryan has put he's never going to be a good defender. I agree. He can stay in front of people. You know how I know? Because I've seen him stay in front of people. When he wants to stay in front of somebody, he does.
What do you need for Ja to stay in front of people?
What are you talking about? I'm saying Ja has the tools to stay in front of people. What
does he need? Care. He needs to care.
Yes. And also, I think the defensive scheme needs to evolve. The defensive scheme is designed for people to funnel into the paint, and that works when you have Steven Adams. But I think it's much more tenable to have on-ball defense be competent. And then if it works with a certain matchup to have people funnel in, do that. But you saw what happened in this series. The Grizzlies defense is designed to funnel people into the paint. With just Jaren, it doesn't work.
Yeah.
When you have Jaren and Steven, it works. When you have just Jaren, it's just too much for him to be able to cover all that ground. So I think he needs to work on that, work on a jumper. The biggest thing for the Grizzlies all offseason, if we're doing one individual player, one individual development outside of health, everybody needs to get healthy. We're not going to have Brandon Clark for a long time, hopefully by the end of next year. Jaren Jackson Jr. needs to just inject testosterone until he just wants to punch everything in sight. Okay. Don't actually do that. Don't take anything illegal. But you know what I mean.
And suspended.
And suspension. Honestly, I will take a suspension if it means come the playoffs, he is going to be just punching it on people's heads. Jaren has to get to that and believe in it all the time.
He's just got to play big. It's not like, listen, you're 7 foot, just play big.
He did.
And then he did.
But as soon as it started to go a little bit south, he caved. That's what I'm saying. Go through one cycle. Just go through one cycle, man. Do what you got to do to get that part in your mind where you just got just enough of crazy where you're like, I don't care. Like, get the Dylan Brooks effect going. 80 swats you, you're like, man, he fouled me. He was lucky. I'm going back in. Like, you got to be able to go in to do that.
Do you agree or disagree? Jaren is Pau Gasol.
I mean,
like
I disagree. Well,
dude,
I agree.
They're
in
just
certain ways.
soft.
I disagree
finesse.
in the way you mean.
They're just soft finesse players. I'm just being honest.
I think I agree with you in terms of one, they can't be the best player.
They can't be the best player on a championship level team. You just can't.
And that right now, it's pure soft finesse game.
In this series,
I disagree with you in that I think Jaren can be just a dominant physical force. The way Pau's game was designed, he was never going to be that. Jaren can be. We've seen him do it. Like,
Pau showed it sometimes.
No, we watched Jaren do it for like a month straight. And like we were on this show talking about the Matrix. He's starting to believe, or he's beginning to believe.
Bro, he watching rewinds. Like,
he's beginning to believe.
He watched the new version.
And then what happened?
Pau Gasol.
Just like Neo, he got freaking gacked. But then they made Matrix Resurrections. So I'm saying there's a chance.
You're out, dude.
No, I think Jaren can be a dominant physical force. I think he knows he can be a dominant physical force. I think he's still not comfortable enough down low to do it. He doesn't have the moves down low. He's clearly still rushed down low. But he knows he has the tools now that if he works on that and develops it, he knows what he can be.
Yeah. No, listen, this is the first offseason in 2 seasons that Jaren is healthy. For what I assume, I don't know, did Jaren go to the post-game press conference in a boot like LeBron would have or will go into? I don't think he did. So I feel good about Jaren being healthy going into the offseason, right? This is the first one in 2 years that he's going to have healthy. And so as long as he doesn't get hurt in the offseason, I just feel that maybe Jaren has a chance to really grow his game, especially his post game, because his post game is going to just completely take off if he puts in the work. That's going to be the number one thing. So it all depends. So we'll see.
And I'm also not going to put anything too heavy on these guys because I'm not even positive Jaren's old enough to drink. So like it sounds like such a cop out, but when your main guys are all 23 and younger, it's not a cop out. When I was 23, like I can't even say the dumb things I was doing on this show when I was 23.
God, video and photos were not smartphones anymore.
It sounds like a cop out. And you're like, oh, they're already in their third postseason. It's like, bro, they're still 23 years old. And that means something. And so that's why, even though, again, we're bringing in toilet paper props tonight, when it comes to the big picture, like it is not doom and gloom for this team. Not even close. Nah. Not to mention, this series looks a lot different if they have Adams, if they have Clark, maybe if Kennard doesn't get hurt. Like, there's so many different things, again, that you threw out at the beginning of the show. Could be excuses. So we're not going to go doom and gloom.
Yep.
But Jaren needs to learn how to grown man some people.
I'm glad we're having fun with this because I think this could have went negative, like so doom and gloom.
We had no fun for the past 3 hours. So
Yeah, I think we're having a lot of fun now. Real quick, I just want to say thank you to all the people who have been with us throughout the season. We switched over from Grizz lead. We've always been Grizz 901. Swift. Man, I can't even talk. Sorry, it's 12:54 in the morning.
Swift for wet jet.
Swapped over from Grizz lead. Now we're at Bluff City Media. Still Grizz 901, still doing the same thing. A lot of people have followed us over there, and a lot of people are new here. And as David said, thank it's been a great watch all season. Listen, this has been the most fun and the best season we have had. Like, this has been a blast. We're not stopping, as we talked about earlier. We're going to have even more and do better things upcoming. And we're going to share a lot about that later.
A lot of fun show-wise, basketball-wise, Grizzlies-wise. It's been a little bit shaky.
Yep, absolutely. So one thing we will say though, as you come into the house sometimes, especially when it was me when I was growing up, my mom would always say, wipe your feet. And so what I've learned now is as I watch YouTube videos, I always try to think of the mentality of, wipe your feet before you come in. So throughout the rest of this off season, we're going to try to train some of our loyal listeners or whoever that comes in. Be a fan. Wipe your feet when you come in and just click the like button. That's all we're asking. Click the like button. Help us get up into the algorithm of other people. So wipe your feet when you come in if you don't mind. Hit that like button. I know there's a lot of you in here. Hit that like button. It'll help us. I appreciate that.
You
like
dog.
that analogy?
You're getting good at that. You're getting good at it, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. I've been trying. I'm practicing. Listen, there's so many comments. I don't want to go back through them, but Devin Smith has been speaking the Lord's work tonight. Obviously, talking a lot about Jaren, but I don't want to go too back far on that. But man, it was it was very frustrating to watch Jaren, but he's also like, you see the unicorn in him, and so I don't want to belabor the point too much. But Jaren has been awesome, but. Something I saw in this series that really just kind of going forward that I want to take as a positive is the simple fact that Desmond Bane, he took that leap as a person that you can depend on. Listen, Desmond Bane came out like guns a-blazing to start the season. He comes out, he's playing phenomenal, right? Great basketball. And then he gets hurt. He's being talked about being a potential all-star. And then the injury comes, takes a step back. It takes him a little while, to get completely caught up and to actually catch his wind, to get going, to feel comfortable. But once he feels comfortable, man, he starts playing well. He has his ups, he has his downs, just like he normally would. But then in this series, midway through, it clicked. He hasn't played well against the Lakers all year. The last two games, outside of this one, it finally clicked, and it looked like he could be the shooter, the scorer, the guy who you could depend on, somebody who you could actually give the ball to and help put off ball a little bit of Ja. Desmond Bane took the leap that I saw, and I think that next year is going to be even crazy.
Well, and you would see that, and it would be a lot more effective, one, if Steven Adams was playing. Again, people underrate the space. And I saw somebody commented a minute ago. I don't know where it was, but made a comment about Adams. He creates so much space for this team inside the arc that it's just so underrated. And you would notice it more with Bane with that, because he would just get to that midi at will. Right. And that's a lot of what the Lakers were able to do with Anthony Davis. That screen worked because Anthony Davis is a great screener.
Yep. And those
screener.
You remember those Steven Adams from the top of the key, those backdoor passes? Oh my God. That's just,
and you missed all of that.
Yep.
Right. And so you see that, but also, just not having guys that are able to space the floor and punish you for doubling, right? Brandon Clark, guy who punishes you for making those kinds of defensive choices, right? And Steven Adams does the same thing. Sometimes Steven Adams just makes it where he's such a behemoth, you can't make the defensive choice to double somebody. So you'll see a lot of that, but when you said that, it made me think about the way that this Grizzlies season has now ended is a lot different than the way last season ended, and makes me hope that we'll see a lot of growth. Because last year it felt like the Grizzlies season ended on a bit of a really good note. But even though it obviously they lost to the Warriors, that sucked. It's like, okay, well, Ja was pounding them before he went out. You didn't have your guys. There was such a chance that you could have stolen one in Golden State and Dylan shot you out of it. It's like, okay, we were right there. Like, you kind of snuck away with that series.
Yeah.
This series, you come out and you're like, we just got pounded. We just got rampaged.
Right.
It wasn't even close. It didn't feel in any way, shape, or form like they should have won that series. And then you come into this year, the Grizzlies feel really hot about themselves. Ja's got his shoe deals. He's got everything going on. This could be all right, we have to actually grow up now. That can't happen again moment where you feel kind of, to be honest, you feel pretty crappy about how the season at this point. But then the Grizzlies come out at like a much more mature, much more locked in, focused team that has experienced a lot of growth and really has like a scar. Like the Jazz series, not a huge playoff scar. You were supposed to get swept. You end up stealing game one.
Yeah.
It's not really a scar. It's experience. Then the Minnesota series, you didn't pay for your mistakes. So you learned some stuff again. It was experience. But that's not a scar because you didn't get punished for the mistakes you made. Golden State, you got punished for the mistakes you made, but you still leave that series feeling like, hey, if we had Ja, if we had just made one better decision, we had that series. You're not feeling down and out about it. You leave this series and you feel like terrible about yourself.
Yeah.
You should. I mean, I feel this sounds bad, but I hope they do.
Yeah.
Like, you feel terrible about yourself. Maybe that spurs some growth, and it's the first real painful scar they get heading out. So I just made me think about that.
Looking back on the last 2 years, the Grizzlies have not been healthy. They are able to give excuses, right? They're able to. Like, as a team, you can find excuses about any loss, more than likely. The Grizzlies have legitimate excuses, but do the excuses slow down their maturity and getting better at, personally? Does it slow them down from getting better in the offseason because maybe they look at it and they use those excuses as a crutch? Like, you can say, hey, listen, if we had our team, if we had all those players, we're going to beat the Lakers. We don't know that. The Lakers shot the way they did tonight. Not many people are beating them. Okay, that's just the truth. And the Grizzlies helped them out, but in the same sense, the Grizzlies could have done something else with the defensive end, right? Than what they did. But in all, like, does the injury excuse slow down how well they could be because maybe they don't make the changes that they need to make? One,
you hope not. Two, this year, I don't think so. You were still good enough to beat that Lakers team.
Yeah.
You were. It wasn't just tonight. Tonight was the only night the Lakers were just going to beat you.
Right.
Out of all the games, there were 6 games in this series. There was one game where it was just the Lakers played so well, they were going to beat you no matter what you did. All the other games, if the Grizzlies execute, if they don't vomit all over themselves, if they play Grizzlies basketball, which they were able to do without Steven Adams, they win the game.
Yeah.
You were a better team than that team. You had more on your team than that, but you didn't show it. I say you're a better team. I think you were the better team. You should have, could have, would have been the better team, but their veteran experience came through and they were the better team. But you had no excuse to be the worst team, even with the injuries. And you get punked like that to end your season. No. I don't care who you are, what happened. You didn't put up. Did they get to 90 tonight?
No, 85. It's on the bottom of the screen if you're wondering.
And nobody in the world other than you keeping you to 85. I heard you.
All right, listen, we've been here for close to an hour. And so I I could talk about the Grizzlies forever. Obviously, I know you can too. And so we don't want to keep beating a dead horse and going on this too long. But let's go ahead and go a little bit to the silver linings. Okay, this is going to be the good part of the show. A lot of you probably don't want to hear that right now, and I understand. But I like to pride myself on being a positive person and always trying to see the good in things, right? And that's what I try to tell my kids. But the other thing is I have an early morning wake up call because I have a T-ball team of 4 and 5 year olds, which is not fun. And I would suggest if you cannot do a 4 and 5 year old T-ball team, don't ever do it, especially don't coach it. And so I have a game in the morning at 9. And so I do want to get out of here eventually. But let's go ahead and get into a little bit of the silver linings and the positive things. You know what? And I'll start. I have, for the most part, I have really enjoyed this team as humans. Okay. Yes. Let's not talk about basketball. As humans, I think they're good dudes. And I know that only goes so far. And I've said this many a times is I like to cheer for good people. And I think these guys are good people. I just really do. And so in the end of the day, good people should be celebrated. And so I'm going to celebrate people like Xavier Tillman. Xavier Tillman is a guy who should not really be in the NBA. He shouldn't be. His talent does not say, I'm an NBA player. It just doesn't. But a guy that says, you know what? I'm going to work my butt off. Am I in the rotation? No. I'm going to go down to South Haven and I'm going to play and I'm going to find a way to get back onto the roster. Things broke his way, right? If Brandon doesn't get hurt, if Adams doesn't get hurt, more than likely he doesn't actually get back onto, the team and doesn't play any meaningful minutes, but he does. And he made the most of it. He's been our starting center for a lot of the season, if not a third of the season. He's now played in back-to-back playoff rounds. Like, he just been a crucial part of this team. And so I want to tip my hat off to a guy like Xavier Tillman because I think that's important. And if you're somebody in the comments, listen, don't lose by 50. Listen, I agree. What's the silver lining? There is not one. You took it, you wore it, and you know what? It hurts. There's no lube, 0 lube tonight. It doesn't feel well. And so that's just part of it. And that's just how life is. But you know what? I'm going to celebrate Xavier Tillman because he's a very good dude and a guy who actually, I think he might have turned around his career a little bit this season. I think it was a crucial season for him in all.
Yep, he sort of got to rewrite what looked like the writing on the wall for his career. And I will say, I also appreciate that I don't respect a team until they beat it. Their DB reference in that comment, music and miracles. I do appreciate that.
You say music and miracles? It's music and muscles.
I thought, listen, it's a miracle that we're even here having fun tonight. So that's where my mind's at. Anyways, my silver lining is going to start off with the spirit of the evening with a negative comment, which is I hate the commitment to development by the Grizzlies. I didn't like it at the beginning of the season. I didn't like that we're going to try and do internal development for all this crap, yada, yada, yada. I think you need to go sign some vets. We talked about that enough, though. All that to say, we get a lot of development coming in from Desmond Bane, which we saw in season. We got to see a little bit of in his past summer leagues. We saw him take steps, continue to take steps, and he looks to me poised to take more steps. It looks like stuff he can continue to build on, which is, if you're a Grizzlies fan, super exciting. But I'm going to go back to my homer fashion, and this is not even just a Grizzlies homer thing. This is a Nate Grizz fan homer thing.
Oh, my God.
The David Roddy offseason of development incoming is going to be incredible. Of everything that went wrong with his Grizzlies season, Zaire. Oh my God, what happened with Zaire? None of us know. Hopefully he bounces back. Steven Adams' knee. What are we going to do? Jaws out. How can we recover? David Roddy's 17-point quarter to lead a comeback win against the Mavericks is how we recover. David Roddy developing a 3-point shot is how we recover. David Roddy driving to the rim and hitting fadeaway jumpers at the end of the shot clock. That's how we recover. And now he gets a full offseason to become the PJ Tucker plus. I always thought he could be.
Instead of PJ Tucker plus.
Come on, man.
Man, we're shopping in the plus sizes. I'm
excited. I am, and listen, all jokes aside, I am genuinely excited to see the development they get out of guys. I will get into this more in a different show.
I got a question. This is me being honest.
Okay.
Very honest. This is something that I've seen. And if you missed out on the pregame show, I talked with Chip Williams from Bluff City Media, but also he's the guy who does the draft stuff. And so we could have went on for forever. We'll have him on as well as our other resident nerd, Ryan. We'll probably have them nerd out together at some point on this show as we lead up to the draft, right? Mm-hmm. I do have a question, okay? And he talked a little bit about what the Grizzlies look for in players, right? And that was all great. It was great content. It was very good. But what I'm seeing, and this might be wrong, this is as honest as I can be, are the Grizzlies drafting guys that are just average role players? Because outside of Desmond Bane, Ja Morant is Ja Morant. You were going to draft Ja Morant or Zion Williams.
Song.
Sorry, forgot the song. You're going to draft one of those two guys, whoever's there left, right? So New Orleans made their pick. You're getting the next guy. I'm not saying that they wouldn't have went with Ja if they'd have the first pick over Zion. I just don't think – I think that's crazy. But are they just drafting good role players that are going to be good on a team, but it won't ever take that next level step? You're not drafting guys who are really going to be – I'm talking about – solid top 5, top 7 players on a team, because it seems like they're just drafting a bunch of role players outside of Desmond Bane. I think that says more about Desmond Bane than it does the front office, but I could be wrong, because if you look at who they're drafting, they're just okay. They're good role players.
Yeah, but I don't know what more you want them to do.
Okay.
You know what I mean? With like outside with their picks. If they're actually using their picks. Sorry, let me clarify. I don't know what else you want them to do, because you're drafting late 20s.
That's what I'm saying. So because the 20s, you're saying, hey, they're getting actual guys that are playing compared to, you could be getting guys that actually don't play.
Well, you look at their track record, they've drafted really well. They have. I mean, you got Desmond Bane, Xavier Tillman, Santi Aldama, Brandon Clark. All those were later picks that have turned out really, really well for you, right? Laravia, Roddy, not Roddy. He's obviously going to pan out. But Laravia, TBD on whether or not that's going to pan out. I don't know what you're supposed to do when you're becoming at worst, like the worst version of this Ja Morant team was late lottery. Right. And so you're not going to do much. I do think you don't need those picks. I mean, I'm with our other resident Bluff City media personality, Chris Ingram, team F them picks. I'm 100% on board with that. Because I mean, at the end of the day, what are you going to do? Laravia and Roddy both aren't going to pan out for this team, most likely. If we're being honest, we can sit here and say, oh, I love Jake Laravia, what he could bring to the team. Are you sitting here with hopes and dreams of Laravia being a rotation player for the Memphis Grizzlies at this moment? Really, realistically, do you see that happening?
No.
And it mattering?
No.
And then here's the thing. If he does become a rotation player for the Grizzlies, if he does develop, is that a good thing? Is that a good thing if he's a rotation player for Memphis next year? No.
Maybe it will. If he
Unless
plays
it was
over people.
No, because right now it would have to be a crazy jump. Unprecedented jump for him to be that much of a contributor. Like you don't need any more youth. You are too young as it is. You've got to start turning these into vets. You have to. I don't care if you trade picks, players, whatever it is. One, you got to have vets for the sake of having vets, and it can't be Danny Green who's sitting on the end of the bench and isn't actually doing anything. You got to go. Is Bobby Portis free agent this summer? Maybe it's Brook Lopez. One of those guys is free agent. You got to go get some guys like that. You have to have guys that, one, contribute to winning basketball, but two, have been there and can help your young guys not be idiots, not let the Lakers keep the Lakers to a 10-0 run instead of letting them go on a 29-2 run.
Yeah.
You're missing that. And so to bring it all back to what you're saying earlier, yes, is that if the Grizzlies are doing that, yeah, they're drafting into the bench rotation players with upside of being 7, 6, maybe 5th best player on your team. Rotation guys. I don't know what more you want to do with it, but the bigger point is you don't need to be just drafting these guys anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what they're going to do in the offseason, man. Listen, we said going into this season that this last offseason was the most important offseason that they've ever had. And I'm not saying they did terrible with it, because obviously they had some players that, that they did well with, and that stuff that they got done. They got Tyus done, and he was big for the regular season, but Tyus is a regular season player. He just is. Yeah, I don't know if you can pay $15 million to a guy who's just going to be a good regular season player, because you're about to pay
players.
You're about to pay $45 million to the point guard position. I don't know if that's possible.
He doesn't compliment your best players.
He doesn't. No. So
if you're going to be paying guys money, they got to be able to be on the court at the same time as your best unit, your best 3 guys. And Tyus doesn't work with Ja, Bane, and Jaren. Doesn't work.
Yeah. I agree. So as Ryan says, they aren't going to accelerate the youth when your core is your core 3 mainly. You're talking about Jaren, Ja, and Bane is 24 and under. I agree with that. And I also say, realistically, we shouldn't expect them to win right now. We do, because they're really good, but I also think that, man, it's tough not to really want them to win, but also knowing that, hey, they're probably going to have to take their lumps early on.
I don't think those two things are contradictory, though. I don't think you're accelerating the youth by bringing in veteran guys. I think you're growing the youth by bringing in veteran guys.
I think it depends. What's the saying? You cut your nose off from something about your face.
Sounds like an old person thing. So you got it.
I'm old. You cut your nose off despite your face. Whatever. I don't know. Listen, I've heard somebody say it. So pretty much you can't kill your future. Like you don't want to kill the future for the present of right now. Right. Does that make sense?
I like that better.
Yeah, that is much better. Listen, that's big brain right here. That's all I got. But yeah, so yes, we don't want to look too far and kill what the future could be just to try to win this next season. Like, you try to do a little bit of both. Eventually you got to. Thank you, Music and Muscles. Don't cut your nose off to spite your face.
You almost screwed it up.
Read it wrong.
Reading it.
It's 1:17.
That's fair. That's fair.
But I do think that we have to. There's got to be a good match. There's got to be a good synergy there,
right?
Where you can maybe figure out a way to go a little bit in and do it the right way without selling off and without giving 5 second-round picks for Jay Crowder. You can't do things like that. That's stupidity.
I mean, I just wouldn't give up much for Jay Crowder in the first place.
Yeah, I agree.
But that's sort of my point, is I actually think you can give up a bunch of picks for certain guys. Like, at the end of the day, you only are going to be able to use so many Jake LaRavias, David Roddy's on your roster. To put it in perspective, you can only use so many Brandon Clarks on your roster.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can only use so many Luke Kennards on your roster, who we would anticipate them being major role players for the Grizzlies moving forward. You can only have so many of those guys. And you can choose to continue to develop them, But at the end of the day, at some point, you got to say, we're going to go and start trying to build growth, maturity, and start trying to win.
Yeah.
And there's nothing with the Grizzlies in my mind holding them back from going and trying to do all of that, including the winning part right now, because you have the pieces in place to start really shooting for that and aiming for that. And like worst case scenario, you miss out on I'd say high end risk, Jordan Poole. And I think if you ask Warriors fans right now if they'd be okay with not having Jordan Poole on the roster,
yes,
they'd be okay with it. Like he is a helpful piece of the roster, right? But it's like that's a high end of the risk you're missing out on usually with the picks the Grizzlies are going to have. So at the end of the day, you use that, turn it into veteran guys, you know what you're going to get, and you deal with the risk of, okay, we lost a Pascal Siakam or something like that. It happens to every team.
Yeah.
Right.
I got a question. So this team is, let's say they are as currently constructed, right? Let's just say just this season, we can go next season, whatever you want to do. If you have a guy and a player that can stretch the floor, shoot some threes, play decent defense, and you know what? We'll put a name on it as Mikal Bridges, right? That was the hot name that the Grizzlies were going after. If you have a guy like that, right? And let's say you sub him in, you sub Dylan Brooks out, and then everybody's, for the most part, healthy. In the offseason, you know, you have another player, you go get a big that maybe is a backup big. I don't know, just another role piece. That's just a veteran guy. That's two moves. Okay. Obviously, Mikal Bridges is probably untouchable at this moment, the way the season he had. Let's just say two guys. Okay. Two guys. And then you look at the rest of the team as currently constructed. You're probably coming off of some rookies and some other players. But if you just look at that, you do those, just switch that out. This team is dynamite. I just think that there's so much you can do, but only doing a little bit. And I think that actually ends up being really what they need to do.
Yeah, and I think those are two moves. Again, it's the Mikal Bridges one is not small. That would be I'd send close to the house for that, right? Not the house, but you know what I mean. Yeah. But yeah, two small in theory moves that make a massive difference. Look at what Luke Kennard did.
That's what I'm saying. I don't think this team isn't far off.
And that's why I'm saying to make the move. If it was like, hey, you had to really readjust the roster, that'd be a whole different conversation.
Right.
That's not what it is for this team. This team, it's a couple of moves here and there, but I think you sacrifice talent and potential right now for the purpose of, sorry, I thought my computer was setting something on fire. For the veteran composure, poise, experience you can get, right? And the thing that comes to my mind is, and I'm trying to think of a player I would get instead of him, but I'm thinking of like, okay, OG Anunoby is a name that's been linked to the Grizzlies a lot. I have no problem with OG Anunoby being on this team, by the way. Zero. I think he's a talented player. Could fit this team well. That's not necessarily a vet guy who you're like, hey, he's going to bring in vet experience and like championship caliber experience to this team. I don't know if he was on that team that when the Raptors won the championship, he might have been, but he didn't scream veteran type stuff to me, right?
No.
He said Cam Johnson music. I love Cam Johnson, but it's sort of the same thing to me, right? I'm like, Cam Johnson fits this team so well.
But at what cost?
It's not even the cost. It's he fits his team so well. But you saw, what did the Lakers have that the Grizzlies didn't have this series? They had young talent. The Grizzlies had young talent.
Effort.
What did they have? Right, but where did that effort come from? In all seriousness, where did that effort come from?
It was mainly from LeBron. It was from their
veteran know-how.
Guys. Yeah.
You got to have the vets. You got to have it. And the Grizzlies don't. You need that. And so I'm trying to think off the top of my head who's a vet you could bring in. I'm trying to think of someone that's a wing with the Drew Holiday type mentality experience. Because Drew Holiday is a championship player who is just always here.
Yeah.
Always here. The Grizzlies didn't lose this series with the peak of play, right? The only peak of play they lost was tonight. They lost it when they hit the valleys and the Lakers stayed even. You got to stay even. Who are you going to bring in that does that also fills needs?
I agree.
If we're going to be honest, Dylan Brooks looks like he may have played his last game in a Grizzlies jersey. I'm not going to say he has or hasn't. I'm not going to pretend to know any of that. If he has, you got to have someone that replaces his skill set. That needs to be a vet. You need a big that can come in when Steven Adams isn't there. That needs to be a vet.
Yeah.
Those are the two things you really got to have. But, yeah. I don't remember the question, but I know that answered it.
Yep. So, yeah, we listen, we've had a fun night. Okay, maybe not a fun night. We've had a fun night on this podcast.
We've had a fun post game.
Yeah, we've had a chance to kind of go off and talk a little bit about what we wanted to talk about, and honestly, just kind of have fun and be ourselves and have a good time doing it. I don't know what the numbers are tonight, but I would imagine they're going to be the biggest we've had in a long time, and so I just wanted to kind of say thank you to everybody who kind of came on here. And as we've talked about in the past, we're not going to stop. We're going to wrap up and put a good bow on the season next episode. If you have any suggestions, if you're a loyal listener, please help us out. We're trying to figure out a good day time to actually do this. We would like to keep going live because I think the comments, as you saw tonight, we enjoy that the most because, it allows us to kind of go, off path a little bit and kind of go a little bit with you as maybe you want to go. And so sometimes, you take the conversation, you take the podcast wherever you want. And we kind of just kind of follow your lead. But that's more fun for us. And so we're trying to think of a day when we could do that where, it would benefit everybody, whether it's day or night. And so hit us up if you have any suggestions, but we're going to keep this going through the off season for sure.
Real quick, I did want to say shout out to the Lakers fans that came with us tonight. I know we had Chris and one other, but it's always fun to have fun with other fans, right? Like Lakers get to talk their talk tonight. Yeah. They do. And for 100%. All off season. But
we got to wear it.
Yeah, we got to wear it. But it's fun to be able to have like actual dialogue and fun with other fans. And it's not what you get and on the internet a lot. So it's a reminder that Twitter is not the real world and that people are typically pretty cool when you meet them. So shout out to all the Lakers fans that came in with us tonight and had some fun with us.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's been a fun time. And listen, when you win, you're allowed to talk. That's just the truth. Yeah. We can go back and forth throughout the series. And right now, Grizzlies fans kind of got to shut up a little bit and just kind of wear it. That's just the truth, right? That's just part of it. And so be it. It is what it is. Anything else you want to hit on before we get out of here? Because it's been fun, but we went over, obviously our time. But I wanted to keep going because it was a good post game so far.
Now we've had fun, but you got T-ball in the morning, and I got pancakes, so we both need to get some sleep.
Yep, I'm trying to get at least 5 hours of sleep. It would be good. Dogs will be waking me up, and then kids, and then each T-ball time.
Ripken, I love Ripken. The best, one of the best dogs ever.
She's at the door crying. Don't worry. She won't go to sleep until I'm asleep. But yeah, that's all we have. We will be back. We're going to kind of change some things up throughout the offseason. If you have suggestions, we're going to try to take it in different bites, right? We're going to wrap up the season. We're going to talk a little bit about what the team needs to do as they move forward. And then we're going to be all in on the draft. And then we're going to be more on the draft. What's the guy's name that we'll bring in?
Bartholomew.
Is it Bartholomew? Raphael?
No
yeah, Raphael Barlow. Raphael Barlow, who is a big draft guy, as well as Chip Williams, as well as Ryan Meadows. They're all big draft guys. We'll hit on the draft, all right? And then we're going to, from there, we'll celebrate somehow Nate pulling out a name out of his rear end.
I was about to say, don't hate on my draft expertise now.
He'll draft someone that we have no clue, never really know about. But then we'll go hit on the summer league and go through that. And at that point, we'll probably both take a sabbatical this year. I think that'd be smart. We'll probably take about a month off and kind of recuperate, take a deep breath, and get ready for this next season. And so that's kind of how I like to do things. And so I think we'll both do that this year, unless the podcast, we want to figure out a way to keep it going all the way through. as we did this last year. So we might just kind of record things, but way in the distance. We'll keep you up to date. Just make sure you stay tuned in. Follow us at Grizz 901 Podcast. You can follow us individually. He's at Grizz Homer. I'm at Daniel Greer. You can follow us individually. But we can't thank you all enough for kind of hanging out with us tonight, but also all season. It's been a pleasure. It's been fun. And we have some cool things happening. If you want to follow Bluff City Bets, follow Bluff City Bets. We're going to have podcasts. We're going to have a new podcast starting this Wednesday with Chase Bobbitt and myself. I'll be hosting that. We're going to hit on basketball as well as other sports. And so it'll be coming out either Wednesday or Thursday, depending on as we feel comfortable and kind of get a good mojo going. But we're here. We're with Bluff City moving forward. We're going to be here, whether it's their Twitter, but also through their YouTube. So make sure you kind of come hang out with us and hit us in the comments because that's always the best. But anything else for you, Nate?
Nope. It's been a fun season. Shout out to everybody that's been with us. It's been cool to see the show grow and see just a couple of idiots just like coming on here and talking and joking and laughing. It's really unbelievable how much support we've gotten and how many people have chosen to come on this journey with us. And we're excited to keep it going. Like I said, we both could use a little bit of a break. It's been a bit of a roller coaster ride of a season, but I couldn't think of anything more fun to do. So excited to keep it going. And thank you to everybody who's been with us. It's you guys are what makes this engine go. So thank you so much.
No, absolutely. It's been fun ever since the hashtag no chip. It's been a fun ride ever since then for sure. But that's it. That's all we have. As you all know, we like to always go out with a little fun thing. It's a little silver linings, right? But it's always a little bit of us, right? And that is going to be just simply be nice and tell your friends.